We will first, well, so today is the 17th. It is 7:03. Ware Finance Committee will start by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome, everybody. So we're going to start right off. I put it in the agenda. Normally we do old business. I think you guys said out loud, and we always just vote to do CIP. So we're just going to go straight into it, if that's okay. What I wanted to do is what we normally, I think it's kind of normal that we talk about the order because Benji usually has to wait around forever. And Tom, help me out here, or Neil. I don't know who's shorter. Does he like it? Does he really like it? Bob, I listened to the selectmen meeting the other night, and you talked for like an hour. So.
He's talking height, Tom. He's talking height.
Oh. Anybody recall who we let go early first last year? I'm
I think they're only here for that anyway, and it's not that quick. It's not that bad of a topic.
Are we gonna? But doesn't Jack normally present first for us? So we'll start with Jack's presentation.
Yes. Okay.
And apologies for forgetting. I thought about it afterwards. Hey, Liz.
Hey there, how are you?
Jack, before you get started, Liz, before you came in, I put this as an agenda item. You can sit, sorry. We just want to make sure that you can either sit at the table, Megan's not going to be here tonight, but if you're speaking or talking, just come up to one of the microphones, okay? Or you can come right up, whatever you're comfortable with.
I'm fine right here.
Okay. We just want to make sure that the audience that's listening can hear everybody talking. Okay? And so, sorry, Tom? Absolutely.
Music stop.
Thanks. In case I want to spell it off, here I am.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And we'll give Bill a chance to come on in. Hey, Bill. Just want to make sure you got everybody in attendance. Bill just walked in. Okay. So we're going to call Jack Dearborn for the CIP overview / presentation. So, floor is yours.
Take it away. Thank you. This is the final stop on the three-stop journey for the Finance Committee this evening. Again, my name is Jack Dearborn, Chairman of the CIP Committee. Stu Richards, Vice Chair. Steve Roberts. Gary Shelto are members. John Osborne, ex officio, and Bruce Fillmore is the Planning Board member. I'd also want to thank Naomi and Beth for all their help and all the department heads for their cooperation in putting this plan together. Okay, just so we review this from last year or the previous year. Basically, 1 and 2 are essentially the same the current year, this year. The difference between the two, one is for life and safety, and one is needs it within a year. Just basically the same thing for two different reasons. Oops, I think I skipped. This is the eye chart. This is our obligatory chart to be compliant with the RSA. This requires us to look forwards at least 6 years. We actually look forwards up to 2034 on some slides in the future here. Basically, the department is named, capital reserve accounts are identified, the equipment moving across, the balance of the capital reserve fund balances, and then we get 2022, our current year, 23, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And this is the second page, be it the same, except on the bottom. It shows the gross impact totals for the current year and out years. The reason we have excellent fidelity for this year is we're actually looking at everything. There are some things that are identified in the out years. Some things may get moved around due to priority, but essentially this is the 6-year plan, and we roll it forwards every year. So last year it was 1 year totals requests, debt service. We have long and short term. We essentially have 2 long-term debts at this point. And we have, one is the highway department and one is the road preservation, the $2.5 million we voted in a couple years ago. And then we also include the debt service with the CIP, so we're showing apples to apples between years. Even though we took some action previous years, we still have to pay for it in these years. This is sort of a, we call it just a whiteboard. This is what we basically decide on as a committee. There's two sheets here. We're going to be talking each one of these individually. Fire department, there's 2 requests this year. Highway department wishes to have 4. Police department is requesting 1, and the Board of Selectmen this year is asking for a request for the start of the update of the master plan. Just so you look at the bottom lines here, this is a very high summary. This 1.746 meets with the other page, so it's congruent. Both are the same for $705,000 for offset grants. One is the block grant, and then the fire special revenue fund for receipt of ambulance fees, less processing fee. And then there's 2 opportunities we have here this year. One is purchasing a vehicle for Benji with the ARPA funds, and one is without the ARPA funds.
What is it called? What fund?
That's the American,
Rescue Plan Act.
thank you. It's our money coming back to us. We pay taxes. It's coming back from the federal government. Our distribution came in this year, and I guess we'll get another payment next year. Right, thank you. So basically, looking at this, if you took no ARPA funds, paying but all on the tax burden, if you will, for this year, it's $1,040,111. And if it's with $260,000 out of the ARPA funds, it's $780,11. The impact on the tax rate is, for this year, is 83 or 62 cents per thousand. And we still have to carry our debt. In this case, it's only long-term debt. So it's either going to be $1.19 dollars or $0.98 per thousand, depending on how, I guess, as the select board choose to either fund the vehicle or not fund the vehicle through the ARPA. This year it happens to be an option. Next slide. Getting to the fire department. By the way, if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask them.
Jack, I didn't know if we were going to go back, but I'm not
I can.
100% clear. So I think we were talking about the total recommendations for CIP.
Yep.
And when you talk about the .83 versus the .62, the tax impact, what determines whether it's the .62 or the .83?
ARPA.
So whether we, accept-
260,000.
Whether it gets that 260.
well, why wouldn't we accept that? So what am I missing?
Well, the selectmen choose to spend that on certain, it can only be spent to, can't be spent to reduce taxes, my understanding is. It has to be spent for some assets.
Oh, so
So-
it doesn't have to be these assets.
I don't know, what's the numbers? We got 450 this year?
Yeah, we're gonna give up 900,000.
900,000. So the selectmen are looking at items to consider purchasing. So there's 2 options. And they're on board with this. We put it both ways because we don't know what the decision is.
Makes sense.
So the left hand is paying all out of taxes. The right-hand column is paying with 260,000 out of the fund coming from the federal government.
So the 260 is what you and your colleagues decided would be a fair amount to apply here? Is that pretty much
Well,
where it comes from?
actually, we are taking, that's the price of a vehicle. So I'll get into this a little bit further, but good point. We didn't divine the 260. There was some discussion, and we understood that the selectmen were considering the 260, so we offered it both ways. I mean, if they change their mind, it's either the left or the right.
Okay.
It's no mystery. I mean, that's just the way it is. we didn't add a lot of value to the decision. We just took it as a option.
Thank you.
I'd ask the department heads to comment if they wish. The chief is requesting this year an upgrade of cardiac monitor defibrillators. It basically is the principal diagnostic tool to figure out why somebody's laying on the ground, what's going on. And they can automate, they can, it's a completely automated system. Go ahead, chief.
Yes, you have to go to the microphone. Well, yeah, so there is a little bit of a change here since we've done CIP.
All right, so recognize Chief Fazina.
Yeah, because something else has come up, so.
Yeah.
No problem.
At the Board of Selectmen's meeting on Monday, it was decided that we would purchase that out of fire department funds. So it won't be on the CIP in 2021.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Ignore that my last comment.
Tom, could we have an explanation of what that means?
Yeah,
For
So-
me, I don't know what that means.
Neil, why don't you come on up, because I want to make sure I understand what you mean, sorry. So you're looking for?
Chief, could you explain what you mean by coming out of fire department funds and how that differs from what we see on page 8?
The fire department recently had one of our units break. We had to have that fixed. While we're in that process, we had a discussion with a service technician who we knew that there had been a deal previously in last year to purchase, they had a very special price on life packs. We inquired as to whether or not that was still available. He checked on that. That pricing wasn't necessarily available, but they gave us a really good quote for these two units. That quote price is only good until the end of the year, which is about $20,000 less than what we're going into CIP with. Maybe the next day, the state government came out with a grant program, the locality equipment program, which is essentially, it's a grant program, a pass-through grant for up to $50,000 for equipment that's kind of related to COVID, if that's not too broad of a term, but there's some eligibility to that, like the equipment has to be related to the grant program. We applied the next day to see if the equipment, this particular equipment would be reimbursed through that program. We haven't necessarily heard back from that, but in order to take advantage of the $20,000 savings, we needed to commit to that money before the end of the year. I believe that I can do that out of my surplus money, if you will, in the fire department budget. The selectmen agreed that we could do that. Ideally, I think this is I hate to throw a percentage on it, but I think there's a very high percentage that we're going to be reimbursed through that program. We probably won't see those funds come back until '22, but
100% reimbursement, you believe?
it is up to $50,000. The price tag that we were looking at was $53,000, so it would net out to about a $3,000 cost to the community, through the operating budget. But we would receive 2 brand-new units with a service agreement by the end of the year. That cost $20,000 less than we know we were given a quote for April. So I think it's a good deal for the town, and the selectmen agreed.
And by units, you mean the defibrillators?
The defibrillators, yep.
Okay.
And there's 2 of those, they're $35,000 a pop.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Neil's got to, I knew Neil's going to follow up, I'm sorry. Call Neil Kirk.
It's a two-part question, Chief. The money that comes back, will that go into the general fund, or will that go into the fire department line? And number 2, how come you have so much money left over in your budget? The surplus, as you called it.
great question. The money, as I understand, will come in as unanticipated revenue and go into the general fund. And it's really just through good fiscal management that we have that amount of money left over at the end of the year.
Good fiscal management.
Well,
every year, but we're in a good position this year.
at the end of the day, it's zero anyways. This was coming out of the revolving fund. It's not coming out of the revolving fund. Apparently, it's been already decided, which is fine. I mean, it fits with our CIP. The source of the money was up to the discretion of the selectmen anyways, where it goes on the warrant or they purchase it. So, moving on. This is the next request. This is an ambulance replacement. I think the chief can talk to the status of the current one. It's not very reliable. Certain major issues with the rear end drive system. Basically comes down to a reliability issue. At the same time, you're looking at improving the patient loading system. I mean, today, you don't know what the size of the people on the ambulance is going to be, or the size of somebody you're going to be picking up. This will take a lot of the, I guess, potential OSHA issues or people getting hurt loading people on the job. So that's what's combined here. $350,000. It's coming out of the revolving, the special revenue fund, the ambulance fee-based fund. Any questions on this?
Yeah, just, is the, this 2009 GMC 85,000, that's the one you're replacing or the one you're getting?
That's the one we're replacing.
All right, that
Yeah.
makes sense. But, so the one you're getting is gonna cost 350,000 and you don't have any specs on that?
This is a two-wheel drive that we're replacing. What we're getting is a four-wheel drive.
Okay.
Jack, is a 12-year life normal for an ambulance, or is this longer than usual or shorter than usual? Any idea when this one will have to be replaced?
I think the 10 or 11-year mark, the ambulance really drops in value as far as the trade goes at the 10-year mark. This has been roughly our longevity. This particular ambulance has been a bit of a maintenance nightmare. We just put $3,600 into it. We lost the ability to use that truck for a month while it was in the shop getting repaired. And so while it's not in service, we use mutual aid with that. Those are longer response times for people who need medical help, and it's also lost revenue as well. I think that we're probably looking at, roughly a 10-year replacement cycle. The one that we purchased in 2016 has roughly the same amount of mileage on it as this does. The department's getting busier, we're doing more transports to the hospital, and so consequently, we're focusing more, because we staff the building, we're focusing a lot more usage on fewer vehicles, if that makes sense. We have 3 stations, so instead of at nighttime, we might have run that ambulance out of the south end. Now we're catching every call with one particular vehicle. We tried to spread it around, but literally every time that truck goes in service, it seems to suffer some sort of mechanical issue. And the latest one was the rear end, and that was $3,600. We put about 20,000 into that in the last 6 years. It's time for that to go. And as we look at the issue of delaying the replacement of say, this one, then you start running into that compression of, well, we need to replace this one because we've used it up, and that other one we're just using, and so it's compressing how often we're replacing those vehicles, right, as we go back and forth between the two.
So, I'm sorry, please, Tom.
Bob, The ambulance record hours as well as miles, like the highway
It
trucks.
does. Yep.
Because I know with the trucks, that has a lot to do with the life expectancy of them, because they're running sometimes, idling when they're not actually on the road gaining miles.
They do record hours. I can get that information for you for future discussion.
I'm just curious because.
I mean, when the vehicle goes out of the building, it doesn't shut off till it comes back.
Right.
So it may sit at the hospital. We see longer wait times at the hospital where we're idle there while waiting for a bed. Hospitals have been full for months. And so it's,
Like with the trucks, what is
Everything's
it,
compounded.
10,000 hours lifespan?
Excuse me, chief, sorry. So, when it comes to vehicles now, granted this is a safety vehicle, you get to a certain point where you invest a lot of money where you end up with almost a new vehicle. Now it's starting to realize it's not the same. But it sounds like you've invested a significant amount of money. So what do you think the big gotcha is on this vehicle if you're replacing rear ends and major components? Because 20,000 is a lot of money. And so when we go to if we go to the taxpayers and we say, look, you need to buy another ambulance, what's the big risk here? And is it a balance between risk and better patient care, for instance? Can you just comment on that a little bit?
yeah, so on the plus side of things, right, replacing the ambulances, I assume we're not gonna have any real maintenance money put into that new vehicle for maybe 4 years. That's been our experience with the Ford that we got. We're on year 5, and we're starting to see some maintenance items with that, but the first few years have been relatively little or no cost. One of the big things is we gained the patient loading system, which allows us to take our patient cot, which is a power cot, so it has a hydraulic motor that lifts the patient up to loading height in the ambulance. And that's two big things for us, is we're not subjecting our people to lifting someone who's really heavy, and it's also much safer for the patient as well. This loading system will allow us to put that stretcher, it locks into the back of that. We can lift the legs up, put it in the truck, and really reduce the amount of hazard to our people of loading and unloading patients at the scene and at the hospital. That's the real big safety issue for us. Like every vehicle, this one's 11 years old, and there's just, things are just changing so fast, right? And so you have stuff that was, necessarily cutting edge, right, 10 years ago that are obsolete in some ways. The downside of this vehicle is its reliability. And so if that truck breaks out on a call, and we've had issues with that, we have to get another vehicle there, and whether that's our second vehicle or a mutual aid ambulance to come and make that patient transfer out on the street. We also had the one that we replaced with the Ford, we had a catastrophic event where the wheel assembly fell off the vehicle on the way back from the hospital. Those aren't good things to have happen, right? So to me, this is the purpose of the fund. We put the money in the fund. We have the ability to not suffer with a vehicle that has gotten to the end of its life cycle.
Thanks, chief. Sorry, Bill's got a question. Yeah, you definitely,
This is why I talked for an hour the other night.
Yeah.
you were getting a lot of questions.
No, Chief, just for the record, on the CIP out years, you got a engine and a tanker coming up 2026 and 2028, about $1 million. How much is in that fund now, and are you comfortable you're going to have enough in that for those major purchases if you buy the ambulance now?
Yeah, the out years are, well, the bottom line is, Beth ran those purchases out on our projection sheet, and we never went in the red on the fund, as the schedule exists on the spreadsheet that you refer to. And then each year, we evaluate where we're at financially, but also the condition of the vehicles. And so what may be stuck out in, say, year 2030, that's a long ways away. And so, it may not be 2030 in reality, it might be 2031, or it might be 2028. It really depends on, what happens between now and then. So that's constantly in flux to some degree, the spreadsheet is really just more or less a planning tool to see if it even makes sense, right, as we look out. In each year, we have that discussion of how big of a fleet, and that fleet's gotten smaller. In my 10 years, we've gotten rid of 2 major pieces of apparatus because we just didn't need it anymore. One was the ladder truck, and one was one of the engines that we had. We had 4, and now we're down to 3. So I see the fleet being smaller, certainly going as we go into out years.
Chief, if I may ask, the market price that's listed.
Liz, I'm sorry, you have to be a little, you can come to the podium if it's easier.
If I may ask, Liz Evans, with regards to the $350,000 request price, is that based on the current market price considering the supply chain constraints, or is that based on prior cost?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
That is current price. The town of Hooksett just got bids back on their ambulance, which is very, very similar to this, and it was $342. So we're, in the ballpark for sure.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Next is the police. Let me get through these couple slides, and then I'll take the questions, because I can't fit it all on one slide. Basically, the chief is looking, the PD is looking for a replacement cruiser. There's a cruiser that isn't there anymore. I guess it was a Crown Vic. It either got towed off or sold for $200 at auction or something. It's not in inventory anymore. Request this. The reason for the Tahoe has a lot of issues in terms of the ergonomic design. That's basically the police officer's office, if you will, and having enough room for people that can get in there, depending on how large or how small somebody is. Big bearing on how much of a comfort factor, as well as the cargo area for equipment. The sedans really didn't have enough cargo space for all the chattel that they wish to bring with them. And this is already baked in an anticipated cost of 3% for the vehicle itself and the upfit. So the cost is, Chief, you want to talk about the pricing you got from that?
So mine are anticipated costs, not current. I've just taken the cost of where we upfit last year's Tahoe and pretty much added 3%. It's about $10,000 more because we added equipment, which I had in my budget last year. So I just put the Tahoe as complete. The main portion being the computer. Computer by itself was $6,000. There's another $1,600 accounted for. We're putting a mobile hotspot in there. We've set up our phones where our phones can act as a second radio because radio coverage is so bad in the town. We're in the final stages of testing that. Everything's very positive. Sergeant Frisbee just got the hotspot connected. Right now, what we're doing is we're turning off our cellular to see what kind of range we get when the vehicle's running from our phone. There's one little more technical issue we're looking at. But if that's the case, we're going to try to add that to all our vehicles because that's huge for us communication-wise. But those are two big things. Also, what they changed on the Tahoe that we had to add. We had to add a spotlight, which is a little over $1,000. They used to come with spotlights. They changed that. If we were to put the traditional spotlight in, it voids the warranty. That's much cheaper, but obviously we don't want to void the warranty, so we had to go with that side mount, which is probably the double the price of the side. So those little things added up to the 10 grand, an increase plus the 3% that we're projecting. Make sense?
Yeah. So is this, so because this is gonna come up, this is replacing the Crown Vic or replacing the Taurus?
This will be a frontline vehicle. It will be one of the main patrol vehicles. And I do want to announce this too. Last night we had a non-public where we're going to be hiring another certified officer. We'll be full come December 8th.
Meaning
Not
24
24-hour coverage, fully staffed. It'll take 2 more people, which of course the citizens would have to approve for us to do 24-hour coverage. But obviously with a fully staffed department, Lieutenant Ebert was talking about that. He's been here for 17 years. He can recall 2 weeks where they've been fully staffed. Obviously, if we've got a full staff, we're driving the cars more. So the miles are going to go up. We need to have that consistent replacement process where we're putting the cars out there. We don't need any more. Even if we add 2 positions, I don't need more vehicles. We're good there. Pretty much it's 2 officers assigned for each vehicle. That's how it would go. One of the Dodge, if this is approved also, one of the Dodges just rotates into that other position where the Tahoe takes the frontline vehicle.
Bill?
Chief, you've got 6 vehicles here that you've been operating with for this past year, and this would add a vehicle.
No.
What is this vehicle going to give you that will offset any deficiencies that you've been operating with for six? In other words, you've been operating with 6 vehicles and getting by with 6 vehicles. I want to know why you need a 7th vehicle. In other words,
So I was
what's
already
what's the right number of vehicles?
right. So 7's the right number of vehicles, and it's not like
Okay.
I have 6 and I'm good with 6. 7's what I'm supposed to have.
What-
It's just vehicles weren't replaced
Right,
when
no,
they
I-
should have been,
I
where
under-
I'm now short.
No, I understand that, but this operations this past year has been with 6 vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And what has been the impact of not having this 7th vehicle?
Because we have been short-staffed, not much. So, because we're going to be fully staffed, I'm going to have officers sitting in the station without a ride, is how that'll impact it. So if we've got 12 full-time officers, 2 part-time officers were authorized. If you put 2 in each car, that's 7 cars. Make sense? Now, I have no intention of hiring 1 part-time officer, but we do have 1 who works. She was here today. So you always plan for emergency events. In an emergency event, everybody would be in. We have everybody in 1 day a week, and 7 cars are out there, fully staffed. And that's putting 2 people in each car.
And Neil?
Chief, on this list, the new vehicle is going to be number 7.
Right.
That means that you're still going to be using as a regular daily vehicle, vehicle number 1, with 235,000 miles on it.
Vehicle, so we renumbered a little bit. Vehicle number 1 is my vehicle. Vehicle number 2 will be the second unmarked vehicle. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all the frontline vehicles.
So we're going to have 2 unmarked vehicles?
Correct.
And who runs those?
One's assigned to me, one's assigned to lieutenant. However, they're for departmental use. They frequently take the unmarked to either training, court. We go to Manchester where we store records. We have to take, it's constant. It's part of police work. The reason we would want unmarked is obviously if we're driving a marked unit around in another community, we get flagged down where we can't really respond to that other community. So it alleviates confusion.
So we have 5 vehicles, and that is all you need for your full staffing?
No.
Then-
So 5 frontline vehicles and 2 administrative vehicles.
But the 2 administrative vehicles are not used in the regular patrols, correct?
No, I wouldn't say that either. So everything's we're a patrol unit. Everything's patrol. When I came from our precinct to here, I'm on patrol. If I come up on something, I'm
I understand that, but the
right.
I don't know quite what the term is, the regular officers,
Right.
the excluding you and the lieutenant, all of the other officers need cars to drive.
Correct.
Don't they need more than 5?
No, we're good with 5.
Thank you.
Chief, just for clarification, so I understand, what's the total number of officers we have on duty at the same time? I'm just thinking rotation of cars.
Today we had 10 out of 12, just because we've got one in the we've got one in the academy and we haven't hired one yet.
No, I'm sorry, I meant on the same shift, sorry. I should have been specific.
Total at the most 4 on days, I believe, and it would be 8 on nights
On one shift.
on one shift, on one day of the week.
But I only count 4 vehicles plus 2 unmarked. How does that add up to 8? They doubling up on cars?
Yeah,
Two people per
Two per
vehicle.
car.
Oh, we're
put two
doing
in
that
a car.
now? Oh, I know
That's,
that.
that's the most.
But I didn't know we were doing that regularly. Okay.
I wouldn't say regular, because you're still having training, you're still having, we do a lot more than just patrol.
Yeah, what I'm looking at here really is to Neil's point, do we have enough cars? It
Yes.
seems like you're
Yes.
you're lean if there's a breakdown or,
As long as we keep one car a year coming in where I don't have to worry about something breaking down would, but we don't need to pay for another car just in case. As long as we keep one car a year, we're good.
thank you.
As long as we don't wreck them.
Thank you.
Tom,
I got hit.
Tom, Clo?
just relating to the police cars, I noticed that we have a field trip plan to look at new equipment at the highway department. A couple of years ago, we, who were at the CIP meeting, had the opportunity to sit in one of those Dodge Chargers and to see the storage space or lack thereof. Now, this is probably more of a conversation for next year because that's when you'll be looking to replace one of those. But I think it would be good for anybody who's making a decision on police vehicles to literally sit in the Dodge, feel the discomfort of it, and see the lack of trunk space for storage of equipment. And it'll give you a clearer idea of why that the department's looking to move to a different vehicle, the four-wheel drive, but not just the four-wheel drive, but the storage is ridiculous in those, and the comfort is,
Those are meant more for highway patrol, because they don't do as much.
well, what they're meant for is certainly not ergonomics because they're a very uncomfortable vehicle. So I'm just saying that because we are looking at the equipment that's available at the highway garage, and I think it might be good if people who are making a decision in the future gets a really good up-close look at the Dodges and why they do have to be changed over to something that's better all around for the department.
I actually went down, the chief was more than welcoming. I didn't have an appointment, and he showed me other vehicles in the new Tahoe, I would say. And actually, it was a little bit more enlightening than I thought it was gonna be, so. I completely agree with you, Tom.
Next slide is just a notional rotation based on the health and well-being of the vehicles. There could be one that all of a sudden becomes worse than the other, and they might swap it around in the next or 2 years from now. This is basically showing a rotation. The expectation on this rotation is 1 vehicle a year, and pushing cars down from the 5 frontline vehicles and putting it down into the 2 I call them administrative vehicles.
And just to address a little bit more of Neil's point on this, if you look in 2023, I'm scheduled to switch out from an Explorer to the Tahoe. We're setting that Tahoe up, and we're not going to go with the totally unmarked end. We're going to go with called Ghost Graphics, so they're still reflective, so everything will be graphics come 2023. There's just no sense in spending money on that. But that's where we are looking out in case we are in an accident or something. That Tahoe will be not quite upfit to the point of a frontline vehicle, but it'd be very easy within like 2 weeks of us having that fully upfit, and now it's straight in the front line, because that's where the priority is, making sure we always keep 5 frontline vehicles. So that's the master plan. That's why I don't necessarily need a Tahoe. It's just in case something does happen to one of those 5 where we can get something, we have that right there, and we can upfit it and send it right out and keep the guys rolling. Make sense? But that's still a year away. We'll be talking about that next year.
Thank you, chief.
At this point, if you get into Benji, Benji's request is for 2 new 10-wheelers. Last year, the price was $215, or I should say 2019 or 2020 price was $215. The inflation cost was $260. just in like 1 year. That's anticipated, the cost of all the steel going up in manufacturing. We show this with an asterisk, one of them, we don't really care which one. We just happen to pick it on one of them, that it could be done with the ARPA money. But if it's 100% impact by taxes, it'll be 21 cents for the two top ones. The next one, the 550, is the 6-wheel small dump truck. That one there is had an extended shop time for the last month and a half, rebuilding the front end and other things. Benji told me this morning that spindles are a problem trying to get what they attach the wheel to. They don't make them anymore, and he's having problems trying to get some used ones. So basically, those are the 3 vehicles we're requesting this year. And the bottom one is road reconstruction. That's all the money that's spent for, it's not labor, it's not fuel, tires, or parts for vehicles. It's basically any sand and gravel he has to purchase, the cost of crushing for summer roads and for winter roads as well, calcium chloride, culverts, guardrails. This is basically a catch-all for anything that's not covered by the operating budget. Everything comes out of this budget. Paving, I'm sorry. And so basically, impact of that 575 to taxes is 294,098. That's the difference between the $280,000 block grant. The state collects fees from the towns in terms of vehicle registrations and such. And there's a formula which is made up of how many miles a town has of roads, how many people on each road. Out pops a magic number of a percentage of the block grant, and our piece of it is $294,000. That's an estimated number. So basically, impact for taxes for the road reconstruction is 23 cents, for the total of 75 cents per thousand. We happen to pick the top one for the ARPA money, but if we didn't spend the ARPA money on this, it'd be 21 cents. Now, let me get into why requesting 2 this year. Last year, 1 was not put forwards and voted on. Basically, Benji's running a partial geriatric ward for his vehicles. I say that laughingly, but this is an example of a 10-wheeler that with a hard dock body on it, fitted with a wing plow and a front plow. It's not on there right now. This is sort of the conditions of some of the vehicles he has to deal with. The problem is, it's sort of like going to Monte Carlo. Every time they decide to go out for either plowing, sanding, or salting, or to even do road work, it's not unreasonable, Benji says, to have 4 or 5 trucks that A, don't start, or B, start and don't run, and you have to do kind of like a panic to get everybody running again to get out there and do their jobs. So part of the problem is, it isn't so much that, we have mechanics to fix it, but when we pay truck drivers to drive trucks, and we don't have a truck fit for service, they're getting paid basically for doing nothing. And then when they finally get the truck, part of their 8 hours or most of their 8 hours is already gone. To do the job, you got to pay overtime. So it's not only an issue of reliability, fit for service, it's an impact to the operating budget as well. And that becomes pressure on being able to maintain the operating budget. So these are the issues that Benji is dealing with. Just to get an idea, this happens to be a international, let's say 550 chassis or 4500 chassis, and there'll be a sander, dump body on the back, plow on the front, fitted up. And this is sort of like the hit list. You look at some of the ages here. 5 and 8 are targeted to be the worst of the worst as it stands today. But when they go to actually get these trucks, somebody else may be worse. But these are the ones today. And life as a plow truck in the town of Ware is pretty hard. You look at these vehicles going down the state highway or down the interstate, they're doing 40 miles an hour. Well, plowing our town roads with the hills that we have and the back roads, class 5 dirt roads, they're typically in low gear, right to the mat. They got a full load of sand on the back with a wing plow and a plow up front. Life is hard for a plow truck. And unfortunately, that if you look at the next, I'll come back to this one, but you look at this slide. Hang on here. Yeah, this is a telling issue. Let me get my laser pointer. Here's the problem. We didn't buy any vehicles here, okay? So stuff that are in the extreme geriatric state right now, if we had purchased new trucks in any one of these years, we probably would have had them swapped out by now. But we're in a situation where we're stuck. And 2 years ago, I think it was the chairman that asked a question, do you need more than one truck a year? And Benji spoke and said, I'm able to live with one truck a year to get through this cycle. Unfortunately, we didn't get one last year, so we was in a position to request it this year. So the selectmen, not putting the words in their mouth, but my understanding is they felt it was important enough to dedicate $260,000 of that ARPA money to purchase at least one truck to get us back on schedule. So let me just back up here. So you see the trucks, you can see the hours, and you can see the miles. Even though the miles may not seem high by a car standard or even a pickup truck standard, it's really the quality of the steel that was used to build these back in the 2000s. We look at what happened to our bridge over in East Ware. A lot of the quality of the steel was not really understood. There was a lot of stuff that was just brought into the country, outsourcing, globalism. So you got vehicles with bodies made out of mild steel. They're just prone to rust. And as a result, Benji, I mean, my understanding you got an invite to go over and see your stuff?
I can speak to that real quick.
Yes, sir.
So, just for the public, we sent out a notice to the committee members that Benji invited us or welcomed us down this Saturday. It's gonna be at 9:30. If we have a quorum, we'll have a scheduled meeting. We'll give advance notice. We'll take a count later in the meeting, but we'll keep notes and everything. But at a minimal, I was down there and I got a quick view working with, sorry, is it Joe? Just talked to Joe for a while, and just in the short time I was there, I thought everybody would appreciate it. Benji said he'd welcome anybody, but I figured if we're all together, for those that can't go, I'll take some pictures. I did want to point out one thing here that I saw while I was there. Can you go back to the pictures?
Yes, sir.
And there's something that genuinely concerned me, and I'm not sure if most folks realize. Go back to the truck pictures, please. Nope, one more. So if you look in the lower right corner, if you look at the back of that truck right there, if you see where the rod is, all of the structural integrity of that, the back of that body is that corner right there. And if you take your pointer and put it right to the corner, Jack, you got your pointer? That corner right there is all that's left from keeping the side of that dump from going sideways. So if anybody knows anything about the way a vehicle is built and the structure, that's dangerous. And that's one of the few things I saw. I'm interested in seeing what else is going on, but I had no idea until I went down there. And that concerns me. If there's other stuff that's like that, it's a safety problem.
10 years ago, we had a town truck, one of the really, I guess, ended up being really bad. The truck was heading north to, on 77 towards 114. and the rear end took a left and went over the Center Street bridge. And the problem with these six-wheel trucks is the amount of weight we put on them, the amount of stress there is going over these roads, fully loaded. There's a lot of spring breakage. Meaning the rear springs, leaf springs, and the front springs as well. And that'll take a truck out for a week if you can get the leaf springs. A lot of times they're gonna be manufactured.
If it's not a police investigation.
Well, I'm just trying to say that there is a rationale why this needs to happen. The problem was over 6 years, we didn't make the investment. There is a solution to put new plows on this vehicles and a new body on the back, but that's pushing $100,000. And what are you stuck with? You're still stuck with a junk chassis. And these Volvos happen to be the biggest ones causing fits because apparently some of the engine controls are the first generation electronics and they're not very reliable. And Benji mentioned a couple years ago that Volvo don't even want to see him showing up here again. So he has to have his crew, his mechanics, try the best they can to get it running and keep them running. So, I mean, I think if you went and saw the vehicles, I think it'll tell a better tale than me showing pictures up here and talking about it, to be honest with you. This just happens to be a schedule of other non-registered equipment. Volvos, grader, you know, you look down the list, backhoe and stuff. And a notional replacement in 2024 for a reasonably large ticket item of about a couple $100,000 for an excavator. And that's, I don't know, what year is that excavator? 07. It's a principal piece of equipment the town of Ware uses for road reconstruction, culvert repair. And, oh, there we go again. And here's our transfer station stuff. We recently, last year, the year before, just purchased, last year, a trailer, Packer trailer. And unless you got some questions for Benji, I'll go through the other eye chart.
I just have one.
Yeah, Bill, you got the floor.
Benji, this isn't so much for this year, but as you look down the line, you're replacing a lot of the trucks with the 10-wheelers, and they have better efficiency. They can make a longer run. As you envision, as you replace them, the end game could be where you actually reduce your inventory by a truck or two because of the efficiencies that are built in by the 10-wheeler. Not now, but moving down the
No,
line.
what I'm trying to do is not have to increase my inventory. Because I've gotten over 10 miles of extra road just since I've worked here from subdivisions and stuff like that. So, I'm trying to make it so I don't have to increase it in the near future.
What are we going for brand-wise with the new trucks?
Well, I put out a set of specs and it's gotta go out to bid. Western Star's been winning. International came out with one that really disliked the motor, gave them a chance to bid on a different motor. They bid 2 trucks and they were way high, but Western Star, got the last 4, it was a low bid, so. But I spec a particular motor, particular ends, particular set of suspension. I mean, I don't just say I need a 10-wheel truck. I tell them exactly what I want, and they gotta put that in that truck. But there are criteria. I won't have a max force motor if it's the last thing I have, so. But I will tell you, and not to carry an eye on too long, but getting a truck is a problem. And I tried to warn this last year because it was told to me that it might be a problem getting a truck. Now getting a truck, if we order one today, we might see it in 12 months from now, the truck. And the body company, who I just found some bad news out about today also, but they're 10 months out for the equipment. And now one company has bought up all of the equipment in the Northeast of the brands, and there's one shop building it all. So like I get Tenco, the equipment's coming from Canada, but there's one shop in the Northeast building it all. So after the 10 months of getting my body and my plows, I don't know how long it'll be in the shop. And, you know, we got guys talented enough to build a truck, but we don't have time when we're trying to put these things back together. So I'm really excited you guys are interested to come down. I just want to point out to this, when we're there, what we've done to get them along this. You know, I only come in and cry about the condition of our trucks this one meeting the whole year. The rest of it, we get the welders out and we patch them, but the numbers I put on here were numbers right from the dealers. That we got the 260 because I called McDivitt and called Kenworth and asked what to expect for a chassis number, and I called Tenco and asked what to expect for a body number and plow. I always say body, but that's to build the truck. I've gone with 10-wheelers for all the reasons he just said. They're short 10-wheelers, so it's almost impossible to overload them. We put much more on it, but it's not a 16 or 18 foot 10-wheeler body. It's a 12 or 13 foot 10-wheeler body. But we only have to haul one load to post-treat instead of two loads. It makes response time. Cut us down from about 12, 14 hours post-storm cleanup to about 8 hours when they're all running. The little truck we talked about as the 6-wheeler. I used that term when I got the last one, try to be transparent, and I'm almost worried I said too much. It's really just a glorified 1-ton. It's what we replaced the 1-tons with, these 4500s. It's the same type of chassis Chief Ambulance is on. We have 09 that I'm trying to request to replace. It was a bear to get front end parts, and there are no spindles in the world for it. If you guys know where there are too, let me know. I don't have to put them back on, and I hope the bearings are all set. So, they're all plow trucks, all of them. They're all frontline vehicles when it snows. Yes, we haul gravel in the summer and we do ditching and road maintenance in the summer, but their job is to remove snow in the winter. And there is no help for highway departments in the winter, because when it snows, it's probably snowing in Henniker and Goffstown, so there's no help to come up and help us when a truck goes down. It's us. So we're stretched out to about 3 hours a route. I think that is more than long enough when you want to get to work in the morning and your road happens to be last on that 3-hour route. And so I hope you all can come down and take 10 minutes this weekend.
I'm on page 18, Benji, the vehicle schedule.
Yep.
The 2 trucks that you want to buy are 5 and 8, and they're in yellow. But if you look at the hours in the hour column, it looks like P1, T4, T7, T9, and T10 are all at that 10,000 hour or over that 10,000 hour.
Yes.
Have you thought about trying to use some more of the federal money so that you can bring your fleet up to where it needs to be, rather than just patching it up with 2 trucks a year and waiting a decade before you catch up? In other words, there's a lot of federal money floating around that is coming to Ware, not just the 900,000. It seems to me that this may be a very good opportunity, at least to order, especially if it takes a year or 2 to get the vehicle.
Take all you can get.
Right, exactly. As I hear of things, I'll look into them. There is one mistake on here that I missed. P1 is our new truck, so the hours on there is very low. It's not 9,900.
That's probably the miles.
Probably is. Probably just got accidentally put over on that side. So
I saw that too. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, I have 5 of them in that category. My plan when I started, we all as department heads were asked to put together a long-term plan. We knew that things don't always work out every year, but I said that I was going to ask for a plow truck every single year. I have 11. Time I get to the last one, it'll be 11 years old. I think that's reasonable. When you get to that point, the world fell apart and we had to skip 1 year and it was 12 years old. I suppose we could talk about that. And then there was a good possibility of having one other item every year, or most years, along with that plow truck, with Public Works. Keep in mind, we have a town of 10,000 people, and we have a very large transfer station that we run, I would argue, as efficiently as any transfer station in the state. We have 2 full-time people up there taking care of 10,000 people. you go to any other town that's part-time, that's smaller, they got up to 5 part-time guys running their transfer station, so, you know, so we need other things every year to go along with a big truck, and I'm just trying not to get the can kicked down the hallway till we have a whole case of them in the corner. You look back on the equipment list, things that even to me kind of seem new, right? The grader, whatever page that's on now, that's a 2015. It's already got 6 years on it. It's a $350,000 machine. It seems new. It looks new. My operators take good care of it, but it's getting close to being halfway through its life cycle. So the cans are piling up, and the reason I only asked for 2 is I don't want to ask for too much. I'm almost, you know, concerned maybe the voters will think this too much, but I don't know what we're going to do. You know, you don't really have the option not to provide the service. It reflects on my job and my guy's job. I got to get the snow plowed. Social media never says, oh, poor guy's truck broke down. They say, now you got to fire that guy and get someone that can get it done. Well, I'm just telling you the tools they need to get it done, so.
Help me out with the iChat. I think I know how to do it, but I probably screw it up.
Are you all done?
Yeah.
Page.
Wait.
More. Go too fast. That one?
Yeah,
There
thank
you
you. So this is the other eye chart. We start with an eye chart, we end with an eye chart. Basically, you'll see the long-term debt, and if we had any short-term debt, we would have listed as well, but that finished up in 2019. We had a grader lease and an ambulance lease. And all we have now is the long-term debt, which runs out the 20 for the DPW garage is 2027, and 2029 is the road bond that we recently passed. So that gives us totals here for a long or short-term debt. This is our capital proposal, because this is a proposal line. And here is our debt on the proposal minus the offsetting revenues right here. And here is the amount to be paid by taxes, and there's 2 conditions. One is if we pay for it all with taxes or with the ARPA funds. So it's $1.19 or 98 cents if we buy all the stuff there. Now, one item did come off, but it doesn't affect the bottom line because we're going to transfer it. Well, actually, it's actually changed, but the bottom line doesn't change. Our offsetting revenues would be reduced by $75,000.
Any other questions for Jack for now? Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you do me a favor? Can you bring the agenda up?
Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
My nice done.
On CIP, is there any other questions for Beth at this point? I figure we should ask that while she's still here. I mean, I think we'll obviously have another opportunity. Okay. With that, I think we'll move down the agenda. We'll go into old business. In terms of the meeting minutes, I'm a little embarrassed that we had like 4 different meetings we never actually approved. So I did not get a chance to go through. I did read the meeting minutes. So I'd like to see if if folks reviewed them, if we vote to accept those meeting minutes to get that one out of the way. Do you think? Does that make sense? Leah?
Are you talking about October 27th?
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Yes, I'm talking about our last meeting on October 27th, so I want to I think we need a motion to accept
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept those.
The meeting minutes for October 27th.
Yep.
I think before we debate, we have to have a second. Am I wrong? Okay, go ahead.
I think there are some corrections that need to be made, or additions that need to be made. The first one's a technical one. The first line, Eileen Meany, after the word resigned and before the word Rachel, there should be a colon. And then, I thought some very important information was given by the moderator when she introduced the new members, and that isn't in here. And that was that one of them had a wife as a teacher, and the other one was related to someone, and I don't remember who. I thought that that is very important information for the public and should be reflected in the minutes and not just said orally. I don't know the exact language or where it needs to be put in, but I would like to see that in the minutes. And that's it.
Okay, the first one, Neil, just so I heard about the teacher, but the other person's background was?
Elizabeth Salas Evans was, the moderator said she was related to someone, I don't remember who. And that should, I think that fact,
I didn't even remember that part. Do we?
No, Gary mentioned it, but it's like your nephew's spouse.
Right, it's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
oh, it's a nephew?
Yeah.
Nephew's wife.
A nephew's wife, okay.
Okay.
But Gary mentioned that, not
Correct.
Eileen. Yeah.
Gary just mentioned
So I-
that.
Okay, so
That, I think that that was a very wise thing to do so that everybody understands relationships. And that, I thought it should be reflected in the minutes, but it's relatively distant and therefore probably not. But the wife issue probably ought to be.
yeah, I mean, everybody knows who Jeff's wife is in town, so I don't,
think Eileen said that. I brought that up, but.
yes.
Then, thank you for doing that. I think that's very appropriate, as Gary's was, but it should be reflected in the minutes.
Yeah, so here's what I propose, and to not make too big of a deal of this. When we were talking about committees, it would, unless we
That's
haven't.
the reason I brought it up.
Yeah, it was part of the conversation, so there,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has an issue saying Jeff is on the town committee and mentioned a concern. Does anybody have an issue with that?
I don't, for the relevance, but I don't have a problem adding it.
Yeah, I mean, James and I are friends. We're gonna have to report our relationship outside of.
We're not friends.
Not anymore, yeah.
No,
I'll add it, no big deal. NBD.
does anybody have an objection to adding that? And if you do, then it's perfectly fine.
Adding what,
Adding the.
the two that we just.
Jeff's comment,
Not that
yes.
you and James are friends.
Yes,
I don't think we need that.
yeah. Okay, I don't have an issue with that. I don't think we need to vote. So I think what we'll do is, the request is to add the comment about the relationships that Liz had
Yep.
relative to the committee and Jeff relative to the committee. With those changes in order, I move that we go to a vote to accept the meeting minutes as corrected. So all those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes, I'm going to say aye, hands on aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So no opposed. So one, I'm sorry, Leah, did you vote? To accept the meeting? I wasn't looking. I'm going to say how many people.
Oh, sorry. How about, I wrote them, yeah, I accept them.
You never know. Well, the changes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you, Bill. So 9, 4, 0 against. Okay, so in the matter of the other meeting minutes, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Does anybody have the chance to take a look at the other 4 meetings returning? Can I ask a general question? Did anybody that looked at them had any issues or concerns? Because I did not have time to do it. We can table it till the next meeting if everybody's
They're also all posted
As drafts.
on the
Right.
town website, so if you can't find the email that I sent it in, they're on the town website.
My intent was to review them, come back, and give the committee my confidence in the accuracy of them. I did not have that, I was not able to accomplish that. If anybody else wants to do that. So what I think I want to do is, I think I have to make a motion for this, which is to table the meeting minutes until the next meeting. And if you guys are opposed, we can go to a vote, too.
Second that motion.
Okay. So then we'll go to a vote to table the meeting minutes, acceptance or voting until our next scheduled meeting, which I believe is the 15th of December. So all those in favor of tabling the meeting minutes, Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I just want to make sure everybody, 9-0, I just want to make sure everybody's in favor of doing that. I would like to take a look just in case there's any major misses. So then moving on, is there any other old business? I just put other on the agenda just in case there's stuff we missed and we need to address. I didn't have any, so moving on to the next agenda item, which was subcommittee reporting. I don't know that we have much, but we can start. I was going to say.
School board meeting last night.
So we can go reverse. We'll wear schools. I was not able to watch, so Bill, please.
Yeah, no, I was there. Everything's preliminary. The Ware School Board met last night, and they provided a first pass of their proposed budget for next year, and it would be 17, well, I've got a copy of it here, an extra copy, I think, 2 extra copies. Yeah, maybe if you'd like them. Yeah, this.
Total size?
Just the
Yep.
front back, yeah.
No, how many? 9?
Yes, we.
I've got
Bill, just for clarification, we say first pass meeting.
This is their-
They went through it and said, we think this is what it's going to look like?
This is our first, they haven't massaged it yet, they haven't had a budget workshop yet, and they haven't looked at CARES funding
what I was
and how
wondering.
that might offset some of it.
Thank you.
So it totals 17.6 million. It's a 5.7% increase over this year's operating budget. However, that's a little misleading. If you remember last year, they have to take out the food services line because it's a grant, it's a reimbursable item. So the actual first pass is about 766,000 higher and a 4.6% increase over this year's operating budget. The primary drivers are healthcare, 17.9% GMR over the current year. Last year it was 7%. They're talking 17% to budget for this year. And that, I asked, I talked to Chris this morning, the budget guy up there, and the last year's was budgeted for 7.3%, and that was supposed to be a GMR guaranteed max rate. It actually came in higher, but they got a break on it. So this year, they have to budget for 17.9%. They also have about $217,000 in tech, they call it technology, some of it's Chromebooks. That's an item that is in there now over what was spent last year. That's one that when they have their budget workshop, they're looking at possibly buying some of that equipment and making adjustments to the proposed budget. In the last 2 years, they've had 4 grants, basically COVID-related CARES funding, that have totaled $1.42 million. They've all been obligated and spent. Remember last year we had 184,000, another 91,000, and then they had 352,000. Those have all been obligated, all been spent or have been obligated. They currently have $792,000 in that CARE money to decide how that's going to be spent as we move forward. That's the pot of money that when they have their budget workshop, they'll look at it and see what particular items, maybe they can come down on the proposed budget, but that's to be massaged. Their budget workshop meeting is going to be 7 December at 5:30 in the Ware Middle School Library. That's open to us.
12/7/5:30? Is what we said?
Yep. If you go on the website, it's going to say in their minutes, it's going to be 6 December. They changed it at the meeting last night. I don't know if you had anything info on John Stark, but I heard it last night that the John Stark proposed budget came in about $800 over this year's budget, so it's flat.
800?
800, yeah. It's
Not 800,000?
No, I'm talking $800.
Yeah, do we
That's
have
not
anybody from Star Committee here tonight?
Yeah, I'm here, but I didn't go.
Yeah, okay, so
I heard that last night, so that's secondhand, but it's like, and we've had this before. John Stark has been very flat in their budget. Sometimes the proposed budget has come in under the default budget in some years up there. But it's going to be, the proposed budget looks like for John Stark, it's going to be basically flat with what was the actual budget they operated on last year.
Show one?
We can share it if you want.
So,
Can I do non-op?
I don't know, we're short of you.
here's a,
Will Leah keep a couple?
here's another one.
She's behaving. I'm just picking on you.
I'm not
Actually, I got-
hoarding.
There's two more if you need them.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, why don't you slide that over?
Okay.
I'll take one of those. All right, so is that it for where? Because I think we'll have either Liz or Gary come up if they want. Or, I mean, actually, Gary doesn't have to come up, he can.
Let's see. Oh, we're gonna have, there's no details on it yet, but they're gonna come in with a proposal for full-day kindergarten under development. So we can expect that. You can expect a teacher's contract and a para contract for both Ware schools and John Stark. So that's 4 contracts that'll be coming in this year, along with full-day kindergarten, along with the budgets. They're also forming an ad hoc committee for future concerns on Centerwood School, the facility itself. Call it a capital improvement program looking forward, with it based on what an ad hoc committee comes up with for space, modernization, whatever. That's not something we've got to deal with this year. The next meeting's the budget workshop, 7 December, 5:30. The next school board meeting is 21 December at 6 o'clock. And then they'll have their default budget will be presented there. And I think, if I'm correct, Naomi probably knows better than me, but they did return $576,000 is the number they told me came in from the Ware schools last year. And on the John Stark side, they returned $550,000, but they also kept $350,000, which they could do based on that vote last year.
We honestly set a tax rate.
Yep.
Signed it, sent it back. They approved it by email, so I haven't seen the breakdown.
Yeah,
I didn't see the MS sheet that,
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Chris told me that today. Chris told me
so
that
it was
today.
575?
He told me 576 is what was returned from Ware schools, and 550 from John Stark. John Stark retained 350. And I was confused on this. That vote, where they approved, where John Stark ad infinitum can go out and they can retain 5% of the overall appraisals. That's not each year. If there's, say they retain 350,000, and let's say 350,000 is 5% of the total appraisal property values. If they don't spend a dime out of that, and then they come into this year, they can't retain another 350,000. It's how much is in the pot, and you can only have up to 5% of the the total appraisals, which I wasn't aware of last year. I thought they could do this and build a pot, but
That's
no.
right.
So if they spend down some, then they can raise it back up, get it up to where the 5% is
The Warren article sounded like it was
every year.
every year.
That was my impression.
Yeah, me
And
too.
Chris told me today that, no. It's only the pot itself can only be 5% of the appraised value. That's basically it.
Thanks, Bill. So, do you guys,
I was gone last Wednesday.
okay, no problem. Liz?
Yeah, I watched it on the live stream.
Yeah.
So I was getting their meeting for their budget session on the 17th, which I think is today, and then the same information turned of the first pass at the budget, and for budget for para and staff, and it was 882 was about the difference from last year, but I didn't look to see if there was any draft that was uploaded to the site or anything. So I really don't have much more than what Bill had added.
It's funny that it's so close.
There really wasn't much of a difference in what they had shown.
Okay. Yeah, and on that note, I'll ask Megan, I didn't follow up with her, but she was gonna follow up to see if we could have the opportunity to chat with Chris and Jackie. There's no update on that, just for the school's perspective.
When I talked to Chris today, I don't think he's made a connection yet with Megan, but I told him that somebody say Megan or yourself would call him, he's willing to come down and give us a spiel of how they do their things. Because he said today, like, well, you know, after they get everything together they go through their budget workshop and they narrow down a more accurate number on the proposed budget, that they could meet with us, say, after the 3rd of January. But I think, I tried to impress on him, I think we'd like to hear from them earlier, but I leave it up to you or Megan to make that play.
She wasn't feeling good, but so I'll follow up with her, but my intent was, I mean, especially for us that haven't been doing this for many years, I don't quite understand all the process, so I'm trying to absorb it when they're in here doing the presentation,
Yeah.
and then make some decisions. I just feel like I'd be more informed if we had that opportunity. And I don't mean wasting their time, I mean, come with some good questions in advance and understand the way that they do their business, and I think it will benefit them as well.
Yeah.
Did somebody, I thought did someone else have a question?
And the only other thing I forgot to mention was the population. You know how they lost about 90, it came down to, I got the numbers over there, but they only restored about 15. It's 15 more students in Ware, Centerwoods, and the middle school than what they had last year. So
15
still
kids, period.
15 more than what they had last year. They said at the meeting, oh, and our number went up, we have more students this year. And I asked Chris today, how far did it go up? And he said 15 more, not 100 more.
That's a question.
So the people did not, the population used to be 1,000 5 years ago. I got the numbers. And then it got down under 900 last year because they dropped about 90-some students from the year before. And it only bounced back with 15. So some did not return. Yeah, I would say, I mean, you're going to have fluctuations. Some go up to high school and then you got a new crop coming in. I'm sure there's some variation there, but it's not that high. It shouldn't be that high.
Be interesting to see the start with that. It was.
I was on the kindergarten committee, and it was a unanimous recommendation to go forward with full-day kindergarten. The numbers came in unbelievably low. I think it was 0 to put it in because of the additional state aid and the savings we make by not having to do some noon bus runs. So when Bill mentioned that as a separate warrant article, usually there's a big price tag attached to that. There isn't this time.
Yeah, we're already paying for the busing from last year because we had to, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. That's good to know.
Tom?
Yeah, good, Tom.
On, I think it was the first. Yeah, it was. The police department chief presented their budget, and basically, if you're going right to the bottom line, there's a difference of $59,762 between the default budget and his proposed budget. Some of the increases that would make up that difference are, the big one is dispatch. Their dispatch contract, just a minute, I lost my place, is up $9,074 because they had a new contract. There's also a $3,500 increase because of the need for storage and towing for evidence recovery because they don't have a place to put it. Taser equipment, batteries and cartridges, extra $2,800. Police tasers, an additional $5,850. Also related to the body cameras, licensing and media storage, $4,968. $73.15 for ballistic equipment, protective equipment, vests, helmets, shield, etc. And there are a few others, but those are the major ones that make up the difference between the default and the proposed budget. There's also a savings in there because they're in accreditation. because they're not doing CALIA, because they don't have the manpower to keep it up. And so that's a savings of roughly $8,500 there that would not be in the proposed budget. They have $1 in there instead of the 8,500, so that it's a line placer, so if they can go back to it, there will be a line for it in
What's
the budget.
CALIA again?
CALIA is their certification. It's like a national certification. I don't know what exactly the letters stand for, but it's when a previous chief was here, he was very high on it, and it's a good program because it means that you're nationally certified as a police department. But it takes a lot of effort, and when Chris came, he's just short on staff as they are. He just couldn't see committing the staff to that.
To leave to do those classes. Is it classes?
It has a lot to do with the proper training, ongoing training, and proper policies. The policies were all rewritten in so that they coordinated with national standards for CALIA, and then that had to be followed up with the appropriate training. But it's an ongoing thing. It's not something you do once and then you're accredited. It's an ongoing process. If I remember correctly, I think that the district that Chris, our present chief, came from was certified, but he just doesn't have the manpower to keep it up here.
Because they'd be gone.
Can I make a point on the police when you're done?
Sure, go ahead.
So the chief actually put a massive PowerPoint, it's like 50 slides. If you go to their website, it's easily accessible, and it was really cool. I mean, I look at it on my phone, I had some of the stuff going on. So for anybody that's interested, I thought it was pretty useful. But then it's for the public, so talk about transparency.
Okay, the next, on the 15th, which is previous Monday, there were several presentations. Fire department came out with a budget with really no difference between the default and the proposed budget. So there are variations, things that were taken out, things that were put in, but he was able to keep it balanced so that it's within that default range. I mean, not to the penny, but within the default range. The library submitted their budget, and there's a difference between the proposed and the approved of $4,233. And Parks and Rec, has a difference of, doesn't add up though, but this is what I have here. Difference between the default and the proposed is $11,172. Now the increases have to do with outside services, $7,000. They put Parks and Rec wage increases in here, but the board asked them to take it out and put it in a separate warrant article. So that number actually reflects $3,169 that has been removed from their proposed budget because it will, the selectmen asked that it be a warrant article to be consistent with other raises. Outdoor services, those are primarily for porta potty rentals.
At the lake?
At the lake and all the ball fields.
Oh, the fields.
There's an increase in the dumpster company fees as well, and $500 for repair of some damages at Bolton Park. So just, it's about, did I say library?
You said library.
Okay. That's what I got.
Yeah, I actually heard that the porta potty thing was quite significantly higher.
Yeah, it's really.
It was surprising. It was
Sorry.
a very big cost, so.
I had a pun right on the end of my.
Oh, you did? I blew it?
No, you know,
I'm sorry.
It's best that it passes anyways.
They say stop and think for 1 second before you speak. I've never learned how to do that. The one point I wanted to make on the town was, and I didn't watch everything. Bob talks for a long time, so I didn't have time to watch the whole thing, but we set the tax rate, which I had noted, correct me if I'm wrong, 1767? I'm sorry, 1720 after the,
We gave back $600,000.
yeah, it was, sorry, I wrote it all down here. Yeah, using $600,000, reduced from 1767 to 1720 is the tax rate.
Yeah.
So,
Read all about it in next week's newspaper. Working on it now.
we will. I was waiting to see when the video was released. I mean, that's all I got out of the town, honestly.
Yeah,
What I
just
saw.
one thing to emphasize on that is that there was a reassessment. So the tax rate went down by a considerable amount, but the assessment of properties went up, so it sort of balances itself off. You know, I won't get into that. I was just gonna take an example of my own property, but that's nobody's business but mine.
Look, mine went down. I'm
Mine
just
went
saying.
down too.
I don't, maybe there's more people offsetting the overall tax burden. It wasn't a lot.
Waterfront.
Yeah, I'm not right, I'm not, right?
The
So,
waterfront went up, yeah.
is that what it is? Okay.
The waterfront went up.
So, I mean, you see a lot of people that are really freaked out about the assessment, and it was really interesting to
I
watch,
think
and
for
I just
most
shut it off.
people, they're gonna find that it's either in the same ballpark as what it was,
It should be.
or,
They just don't understand what what the shuffle is
Yep.
in a lot of cases.
And they don't get vaccinated.
Wow.
Question for Tom.
that a
Tom?
jab?
I'm sorry, Neil. I didn't see it.
Mine went up, so.
Tom Clow, was there any discussion of warrant articles?
no, not yet,
Thank you.
except for the CIP
I was just
stuff.
gonna say, we should, Bob introduced a couple things, but we haven't talked about it as a board yet. Bob introduced a couple things he wrote to last time.
Yeah, well, and I think it's pretty common knowledge to anybody on this committee that he had a 4-year plan as far as building the full-time staff, so he'll have 24-hour, 24/7 coverage. So he will be asking for that 4th installment this year with 2 additional full-timers. And that will be the 4th step in a plan that he put forward several years ago.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff is CIP.
What are the assessment valuations, 1 million, 2. If we make this valuation, it would be 2 tax investment.
Neil, do we want to ask that public, or?
No, this is just a question of how much a dollar, and I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing it.
Right. I asked Naomi, if taxes go up $1, if we raise taxes from 1720 to 1820, how much extra money does that bring in? So that we can then figure out, reversing it, if we spend an extra $1 million, it's so much on the tax rate. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't have that
So on
answer.
the back sheet, as I explained to him, is the net assessed evaluation. That 1,259 number is what you're gonna take your article and divide it by the net assessed evaluation to get your cents on 1,000.
Okay, so we have the data to do it. I'm not going to pretend I can repeat that. Okay. So last, we can get close to wrapping up here, really. We already talked about kind of seeing the microphones, and everybody did a great job coming up, so that's wonderful for the people that want to listen to us. I don't know why they would, but.
For one person like
Right, exactly. It's usually Jeff, but he's here now. I know Jeff watches. So for the DPW, given the time frame, I need advance notice, so can we get an idea who's going to come down at 9:30? I thought, was it Bill, you said you were going to go?
I am, I'm gonna try to be, I got a conflict right now, but I'm gonna try to.
Okay, so potential 1,
I'll call Ben.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
2, 3.
It'll be there.
No problem. I'll be there, that's 4. Leah cannot, James cannot, Neil said he cannot. So Tammy and Megan are the only ones, and I haven't heard from them, so if we go, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3,
I'm not sure.
4. Okay, so our only issue is if Tammy or Megan go, and it's not an issue, we just have to give advance notice. I'll send them both a note tonight.
Well, you can just post it, and if,
Yeah,
on the safe side to post it, and if you get.
But if I post it, do I have to now take notes on something because we don't have a quorum?
Well, if you don't have a quorum, you don't have, it's not a meeting.
Yeah, I don't mind taking notes, but if I don't have to
It's
do
not
it,
a meeting,
it's not my
you
thing.
don't have
I don't blame you.
Okay.
Post it on the safe side, because tomorrow's Friday.
Okay, I'll send her a note.
Post it on the safe side, if you don't have a quorum, you don't take any notes.
Good
If
idea.
you have a quorum, you
and
don't.
the notes don't have to be that detailed or
I
something
know,
like
I'm
that.
just being lazy.
You know,
I'd like
I
to.
expect
Like I said,
mine
Identify
last.
That's never gonna happen, Leah. Okay, so for anybody else, like, even if we don't have a meeting, a quorum, for the folks that can't be there, I'm gonna, I think Leah suggested, I'll take some pictures of the stuff I think is, you guys would be most interested in for the folks that aren't there, and we can talk those points. Cars and vehicles and trucks, that's kind of my thing. It's Jeff's too, obviously, so, we can easily translate what we see if you can't be there. Then lastly, I had a note about, to talk about the library presentation, but if the library, back to Tom, if the library really, I mean, they have an increase, but it's not major. In the past, they've presented to us, but, you know, my question was gonna be, are they gonna present to us this year, but does it even matter if,
Well, I think it matters as far as equal time. You know, whether they have little or not, they have programs that they want to mention and other things. I think it's as much for respecting their position in the community as it is for the amount of their budget.
I tend to agree, I didn't wanna say that, but I would like to see them here. So, unless anybody thinks it's a waste of time, I'm seeing some heads nodding, and I don't think we need to vote on it. I think I will just ask Naomi if she wouldn't mind asking when we can get them in here.
When you come in on the 15th, you don't
They
have
can
a
come in,
quorum.
I'm sorry?
Are you doing the 15th with everybody?
Yeah, I mean, the 15th, let me go to my calendar.
I thought that I was bringing all these.
I mean, that's the next agenda item, actually, so. I didn't know if they were coming, I probably should have started and asking you if you knew they were.
Well, I put out a memo to them and told them to be here tonight, and
Including library, oh, okay. Oh, you told library to come here tonight, and they didn't?
no.
No.
I told them not to come tonight. I thought if you wanted them, it'd be the 15th.
Sorry, now I know why I don't have my agenda, because it's with my calendar, which I left on my desk. Okay, so, the next item was calendar items, which our next meeting is December 15th. If we could look at a calendar, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea or best practice to pick a date for the next subsequent meeting after the 15th. I'd like to try and do that now, that way we're not at the next meeting scrambling around people's time off or whatever. So if we're on the 15th, and so correct me if I'm wrong, we were doing once a month until we got into January, we were really heavy into things, that's our, historically? Gary, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if we go into the month of January, I am actually out of town for, you can do it without me, Megan's more than capable, but I am not available the third week.
Is that the 19th? I'm leaving on the 19th.
Yeah, so the week of the 17th is off the table for me, it's off the table for Gary, so if we can schedule around that, I'd like to be here. So that means proposed days, we're looking at it, and if there's room availability, sorry, Jeff?
12?
12 or the 26th, I'd like to focus on the 12th. Naomi, do you know off the top of your head if that's an available day for the room?
Second Wednesday would be conservation.
Okay, so does that mean the 26th, I mean, only the 19th is
So can I
available?
just throw something out, the public hearing for the budget is January 17th.
So we probably want to do it after that. Does that make sense?
So the 26th.
Well, I just meant, if it's on the 17th, we should do it after. If you guys have to have a meeting without me, I can watch it, and Megan's more than capable.
Well, I think,
So,
Can I just?
yes, please.
Well, we've usually had presentations by the school departments coming in here too, not just the town. The next meeting will take care of the rest of the town budgeting stuff, but that doesn't leave when we're going to do the schools. And I think that's helpful to have the superintendent here so that we can have a dialogue on the budgets. So it seems like we're gonna have to have some extra meetings in there if we're gonna do that.
I think we did that the last 2 years.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that maybe getting an idea from Jackie when they're gonna have, be settled in. And we know in the workshop is for Stark, So maybe we try and rein in the same for, excuse me, I said that backwards, for Ware.
7th is for Ware schools.
And then for Stark, the same. If I remember correctly, we didn't see them until we were done with town stuff the last 2 years, easily, even when it wasn't COVID. So I think January, to your point, is the prime time for that, ideally, so we're not in a major crunch. So that said, again, I really don't have an issue. If we think that the 19th makes the most sense.
Are there any days in January that we could use? Before that?
Well, it's on a Wednesday. The January 5th is a Wednesday.
Why not, yeah, what's wrong with 5?
January 5th is a Wednesday, it's the first Wednesday, no?
I don't know.
Start with me.
I mean, I have a meeting with my boss, but I can skip that. I'm just kidding.
You won't still have a hangover from New Year's.
I don't drink like that anymore. Yeah, so the 5th, I mean, going around, is there anybody have any major conflicts with the 5th? So that's a good idea, let's do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the meantime, if we're gonna target the 5th, I don't know if Stark or the schools are gonna be done, but, if Megan doesn't have the chance to reach out to Jackie, I'll reach out to Jackie, and we'll see if we can try and get one of, or Jackie in for, with Chris maybe for all of the school stuff.
That'd be good.
So, okay, so there'll be the tentative
Deliberative?
agenda.
What's that?
Deliberative is when?
Delivered is February 12th.
12.
So, Tom, so the 15th, you're gonna have the budget for the town? December 15th,
Yeah, I think that's what we originally planned.
okay.
That's what I have on my calendar, that if I remember correctly.
I don't know that, Neil raised the question before, I don't think we're gonna be finished, wrap up with the select the 20th of December.
Are you sure? Because I thought that I wrote, I'm sorry, I
No,
forgot my
because
calendar.
We asked at the podium together, we could meet whenever. I was just thinking, on the 15th, everybody would be done, the bigger three, I call
Yeah,
them, and the library.
but you wouldn't have the final concrete.
So the conservation, the planning board, the zoning board, things like that are smaller ones, but we do it in one swoop to finish the budget on the 20th of December. Because Benji's going with all four of his on the 6th.
Right, but if it's the 20th, if that's the 20th, that means,
No, I'm just saying the 5th, if we just, are you looking at doing the schools? You don't know that yet. Is your 5th directed just for the schools, I guess what I'm asking?
sounds like it makes more sense for us to do the town on the 5th and look for another slot for the schools. Because if you're ready, the likeliness that she's gonna be ready, you guys are always ahead of them.
Yeah, well, we
And
would have
my
an
thing-
idea, I think we'd have an idea of warrant articles too at that point.
Okay, I'm looking for input here. It sounds like it makes sense, but
Yeah, I think so. Because that way, we would have the whole town done before your public hearing.
okay, nobody's opposed to that? All right, so we'll either look for the next meeting, or if we gotta fit in another meeting for the schools, we'll work on that then.
I think, Bill, didn't you say they weren't gonna be ready till the 1st of January?
After the 3rd of January was the date that Chris threw out, but I think it would benefit if we had them come down and rub elbows sometime in December. But I know we got, the closer you get to Christmas, the tougher that is.
Okay, just let me connect with Megan, on it, because I would normally just jump in and would make decisions, but she said she was gonna take care of that.
Sometime after, 7th of December, they have their budget workshop, and they may have a better feel for what the proposed budget, it won't be as fuzzy, sometime after the 7th of December.
Okay.
So getting him here for the 15 meeting.
It's just,
That's going pretty stacked right now.
Well, no, because you're moving, I thought you were moving the town to the 5th of January.
It sounds like it makes more sense to do that, so I don't, Jeff's paying attention. So,
So 15 has been lifted as far, it's kind of
It's open.
open for the school to be available. Because they moved
yeah. so
the
it's a good-
town to
it's a
the
good
5th.
point. Okay, well, that's our goal.
And they should be pretty clear what their default budget.
Sorry,
It
Leah,
won't-
I know we're big.
it won't
So,
be- It won't be quite as
So our tentative agenda will be the schools on the 15th. And then I would say it's pretty concrete. The town will be on the 5th, January 5th.
If I could add,
Sure.
At the John Stark meeting, Zach Lawson had mentioned interest in meeting with the Finance Committee. And again, I had attended through live stream. And in regards to what was also brought up was an additional expense due to staff shortages and custodial overnight at John Stark. So with that being said, I don't know what the procedure is for setting up or coordinating meetings.
Typically, if someone wants to put it on the agenda, they'll contact me as the chair just so I can put it on the agenda. We don't have to take a vote. If someone wants to come in and talk, he can. And I love it if he's proactive. I don't, and forgive me, who's Zach Lawson? I don't remember.
He's the chairman.
Okay.
Yeah, John.
Sorry, I knew it sounded familiar. Yeah. So I'm sure we met him too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it coincides with what we want out of Jackie. Was there any further discussion, do you recall, after he said that?
No, it was more of a statement, and I wrote it down as a note, and then I
Okay.
blanked out
No,
following
that's-
Bill's synopsis.
That's helpful. So when I talk to Megan, we'll just talk about Zach Lawson being involved as well.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
actually, I think in the past, we've had both school boards here on the same night.
There's no
So the
reason you can't do
15th
that.
would be for not only Ware schools, but also the John Stark.
Right, and Jackie comes to represent both
Right.
effectively,
So
right?
it gives her everything on one night.
Okay, I think we're good to go there. And then lastly, I think we're good on agenda. I'm just gonna ask if there's any other new business before I make a motion. So I realized, I read my Robert's Rules, again, my little cheat sheet that Leo was kind enough to send me a year or two ago. We're supposed to put a motion to adjourn, so
Adjourn.
I'm gonna, what's that?
Said move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good night. See, I'm not always a rule breaker. I just do